Welcome to the HoosLeft podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from the unapologetic perspective of the Hoosier Left. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm recording from Bloomington. After speaking with diversity and inclusion consultant and former staff director for D&I at Notre Dame, Eric Love, last week, we double dip in north central Indiana with South Bend's Lori Camp, Democratic candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives for Indiana's 2nd District. From her campaign website. Whoa! Lori Camp is a lifelong resident of South Bend, Indiana. She is a 1985 graduate of James Whitcomb Riley High School and earned a degree in criminal justice from IU South Bend. Lori is the operations and training manager as well as the vendor compliance coordinator for Donnell Systems, a small software firm in South Bend. Married to her husband Bob, their daughter Katie is a college student. Lori has served on the South Bend Community Schools Magnet School Task Force, which helped the district determine how the magnet programs could be improved. For the past 6 years, Lori has been a dive coach for South Bend Adams, St. Joseph, and Mishawaka High Schools. Before that, she volunteered as a board member and treasurer of her daughter's gymnastic team. End quote. In this interview, Lori and I talked about her background and how it prepared her to serve Hoosiers in Washington. We spoke at length about the economy, including healthcare and education, which consume large portions of family budgets. We also got into immigration, abortion rights, and the far-right attack on American democracy itself. Finally, we talked about pressing current events like one of our closest allies openly committing genocide and our Supreme Court openly engaging in corruption, before turning to her increasingly fascistic incumbent opponent. Like, God, we really do live in the worst timeline. Once again, today's interview went into overtime. I really do aim for an hour program start to finish, but what the hell? There's no network setting a time limit, so if we go long, we go long. Now that said, I trimmed about 25% and still overshot the mark, so an extra deep interview for everybody, with some still left over. Last week I released the deleted scenes to paid subscribers. Did you guys that received that extra content enjoy it? Let me know what you think. For those of you yet to make the leap, is this something that entices you? No? What would? Again, I want your feedback. I really want to lean into Who's Left as a pro-democracy organizing project. I might be the guy with the microphone, but I want everybody within earshot to think of themselves as participants. Remember the 3 P's of organizing. People coming together to exercise power, which Dr. Martin Luther King defined as the ability to achieve purpose, a specific concrete goal. That's us. You and I and everybody we know doing whatever we can and then reaching deep to find more to build a more just, equitable, and compassionate Indiana and America. That's why I invite the guests I do. When we speak with candidates and elected officials, we have a direct line to those who do or might exercise the legitimate power of government on our behalf. When we speak with activists, we have opportunities to join with them and or learn from their activism. When we speak with academics and experts, we broaden our knowledge base so we can better understand the larger forces at work. I've got a jam-packed summer lineup already in the works with multiple congressional candidates and some nationally renowned authors sprinkled in, amongst Hoosiers working at the state and local level to help their neighbors. I'm constantly working to bring more and more elected officials, activists, organizers, authors, and experts into our communities so we and our people, our extended networks, can more effectively come together to exercise our power for our purpose of building a better Indiana. Unfortunately, we live in a late capitalist hellscape, and doing this work requires money. I currently work as an independent craftsman during the day and work on this project on evenings and weekends. I would love nothing more than to be able to do this work full-time to build our network of committed Hoosiers and allies. If you can, help me out with a paid subscription at scottaaronrogers.substack.com. For $5 a month or $50 a year, you can help me push our state in a better direction. And maybe if we reach critical mass, I can put down my tool belt and devote my full time to you, to this project, and to Indiana's future. So, if you have the means, pause right now, go to scottaaronrogers.substack.com and subscribe at the paid level. And while the best way to help this project is a financial contribution, if you can't afford it at this time, you can still help. Subscribe at the free level over on Substack. Set your favorite podcast player to auto-download new episodes of the show. Rate and review the show on whatever platform you use. Follow me on social media at facebook.com/HoosLeft. That's HOOS left. I'm also on Blue Sky at the same handle. On Instagram, Threads, and Twitter, I'm at ScottRog78, that is SCOTTROG78, and on Mastodon at ScottRog78 at Hoosier.social. Full video episodes of the pod are available on YouTube with clips on TikTok. The handle on both of those is at HoosLeft. Please subscribe on whichever platforms you use and make judicious use of the comment function. The DMs are always open to discuss ideas for the project. But most importantly, please share our message. Forward the articles to friends, family, and colleagues. Don't just like, but share on social media. Invite others to this community of Indiana leftists. Nobody is coming to save us. We've got to do it ourselves. To those who have joined this community already, especially those paid subscribers, you fill my heart and have my sincere thanks. And to everybody, thanks for listening. Here's my interview with Lori Camp. Lori Camp, welcome to the Who's Left podcast.
Hi. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us. So tell our listeners here who you are and what motivated you to run for Congress.
Obviously, Lori Camp. I am a lifelong resident of the 2nd District, St. Joe County, South Bend to be precise. Honestly, what motivated me was outrage at 7 a.m. Every morning I wake up, text my daughter, check Facebook real quick before I hop in the shower. And I looked at Facebook and there was a post from Mad Voters. They're a volunteer group that's trying to get people more involved in politics, get voters out. And so
great organization.
Yeah. And they had a graphic that said who in Indiana was running unopposed. And I looked and I almost couldn't believe my eyes because there was Rudy Yakam, a congressperson, running unopposed. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? I could run. I'm a Democrat. I live in the 2nd District, thinking, people are going to look at that and laugh and, be on their way. Imagine my surprise when almost immediately I got a response that said, are you serious? And I said, sure. I live in the 2nd District. I'm a Democrat. And so, I set my phone down, hopped in the shower because I had to get ready for work. And by the time I got out of the shower, there was an email saying, we're going to put you in contact. If you're serious, we are going to get you in contact with someone so that we can get you on the ballot. So I finished getting ready, drove to work. They had emailed me again some information and said somebody is going to call you around, in the next couple of hours. And so I hadn't said anything to anyone, not my husband, not my daughter, family, anything. And at around 2:30, I think, Brian Smith, who is the chair of the Second District Dems, called me up and said, "Can you fill out the paperwork and get it notarized? We'd like you to file." And I'm guessing the whole time, he and the people from Mad Voters were, scouring my socials, making sure I wasn't something. Which honestly, when you ask my husband, he's like, "Where is the bar for not a nut?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So, the first my husband really found out about this was I asked him to print out the paperwork. We were at work. We work at the same software company. I said, "Can you print out a form for me? I have to go get this notarized." And I said, "I might be running for Congress." And he's like, "Okay, whatever." And honestly, like, my kind of modus operandi is that if something needs done, I just do it. It happened from when my daughter's been in grade school. I ended up coaching her dive team, and so no one was surprised when I did this. Printed out the paperwork, got it notarized downtown because I do work in downtown South Bend. So I ran it over to the county city building, got it notarized, came back, called Brian. I'm like, "I got the paperwork." And he said, "Can you run it to Indy tomorrow by noon?" I'm like, "Brian, I work 8 to 5. I mean, I had explained that, right? I'm like, "I'm going to keep working. I got to work. I got a kid in college." And he said, "Well, hang on." So he called me back. He said, "I can run it down tomorrow. So you have to get it to me." Brian lives around Warsaw. So he said, "Can you meet me in Napanee? We'll chat, and then I'll get the paperwork and run it down." Now, mind you, Brian also works full time, but had taken the day to, who knows why. Someone just told him, "You better take off the day in case we get a candidate." So it's like this first thing had to happen, the second thing, this third thing. I meet Brian in Napanee. My husband came with me because he's like, "I don't know about this. This all seems a little sketchy." So we sat at a coffee shop, talked for about an hour, and Brian's like, "I think you just might be a person that can beat Rudy." And he was dead serious. Because when I first, at 7 a.m. in the morning, my thought was, at least I can make Rudy spend some of his money, right? Because otherwise he doesn't have to do anything. He just skates on through another term in Congress. Yeah. So then by the time I talked to Brian and Bob and I, my husband, we were driving home, I said, "If I do this, people are going to donate to my campaign. They're going to support me. They're going to work, And I said, "So I have to be all in. I am all in." He goes, "I never doubted it from the very beginning." He goes, "You are such a competitive person and, act from the heart that I never thought that this was going to be put my name on the ballot, and that's it." So Brian took my paperwork down. That was on the 9th at 11:20. I texted him. I said, "Did anyone else, step up? Is there an established Democrat that wants to do this?" He said, "Nope, you're again." And I said, "Well, let's go. I'm going to win this." And since that moment, I have been working my butt off to get out there. Again, I'm a regular person. No generational wealth, no trust fund. I'm working. My daughter's in college. I'm like you. I work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. I have to pay college tuition bills, and the joke has become, how they say, turn your side hustle into your day job. So right now, cleaning is my side hustle, and in November, it's going to be my day job. Fingers crossed. So that's how it happened. It's just crazy. There were so many things that had to align, but here I am.
Yeah, that just came together really quickly. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's like if you're a believer in fate, to have all those, because Facebook. I mean, one minute that is it's the top thing on your feed. The next thing is you can't find it for months.
Yeah.
For everything just to align, I have to believe it was, kind of a fateful event.
The big algorithm in the sky was smiling on you.
Yeah, it was.
So, you said you worked in software.
Yep.
What in that field has prepared you for Congress? Now, I'm going to assume your work environment there is a lot more friendly than what Congress would be. It seems like a pretty hostile place.
I have, believe it or not, the day I filed, February 9th, was my 26th year with the company. And so, yeah, I've been in software a long time. And I can tell you, it is friendlier. But when I started, I was the only female in the company that was not the receptionist. And I started in kind of sales and marketing, and then moved into it's what I do now is operations training, contract compliance. And so back in 1998, software was not a friendly environment for women, really. We had to work twice as hard. I luckily was in a company that was more friendly than most, probably. It's a small company. We've had 17 people, and probably 12 or 13 of those have been there almost as long as I have. I am the third most longest employee right now. Just working hard to let people know that, you're not a fad, or, you are as qualified as anyone else. Typically when the hostile environment comes up, as I mentioned, I had volunteered before we started. I volunteered as a dive coach to coach my daughter's dive team at a high school she attended, mostly because they had no coach. And when they were like, I had taught gymnastics and I had been watching her compete, and the club coach that she had, when I said, look, they're not going to have a coach, will you help me learn how? He agreed. He was the head coach at Notre Dame. He was from China. He had coached Chinese Olympians. And so basically I would coach at Adams, and then I would go to the club and stand there and work with Kai Ming, learning how to do stuff. Well, what no one told me when I volunteered is that at Adams, they had no dive well. So we had to practice at another school in the district. And one of the surprising things is that school, that swim coach, did not want us there. So it was a little surprising to me, and it was not a friendly environment. We would come in every day. My kids could feel it. And so kind of, I would say, I've got you, don't worry about anything. I'll handle it. It actually got so bad by the end, we had done a meeting with the superintendent of the school district, the two principals from the school, the athletic directors. And one of the things the coach said, I said, I did everything right. And he said, yeah, you actually did. And he said, but I just want to know why you never had the kids do anything, like when we had to move lane lines or set stuff up. I said, because I was not going to let them by accident do something wrong and then have you take this away from us because, they messed up. So I made sure I did it, made sure we dotted our I's, crossed our T's, and just kept, everything solid so that, no one could say you did this right or wrong. And kind of that's what I intend to do in Congress, get in there, work with honesty and integrity so that no one can say, oh, what she's doing is untoward or, not right.
Yeah. And so before we dive into specific policy issues, I want to ask about your core values that you would take to Congress. And it sounds like one is, willingness to compromise.
Yeah.
So how do your values align with, what they would say as traditional Hoosier values up there in the Second District?
So one of the things that I have been saying when I go different places on my campaign is I kind of want to restore honesty and integrity to politics. You're not going to hear lies from me. If I don't know, I'm going to say that, and you can be sure that I will find the answer and get back to you. I've, had people do that, email me, and it might be something I'm not super familiar with, so I do some research. But just working, right? Our current Congress is the most or least productive, the most useless, I guess, in history, least productive. And now Congress is signing on to the same thing, or the Senate is signing on to the same thing. And I don't know about you, but if I went to work and just refused to do my job, I would lose my job. And so my kind of core values are actually working, which again, that's going to mean compromise, being honest, which is going to mean sometimes people are not going to like what they hear. Integrity, that means I've got to do my homework, right? I've got to know the nitty gritty about things, and in order to make the best choices for the most people. And that's one of the things I've been stressing is that I know it's never going to be 100% my way. So what compromise can I do that will help the most of my constituents or the most of the people in the U.S.? Because again, Congress does affect the whole country.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm hoping to bring. I'm hoping people are tired of the ugliness of the, like, if I don't get everything, I'm taking my toys and going home, or I don't agree with this candidate 100%, so I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Burning it down is not an option. I don't understand how people that either love or like people that are LGBTQ, people of color, immigrants, could vote for anyone but someone on our side. So, again, that's kind of it. It's not exactly very concise, but it is who I am: honesty, integrity, hard work, and doing the most for the most people.
Yeah. So let's turn to specific policy issues here. And I want to start on the economy, because that's consistently what voters tell pollsters is their top issue, right? And you mentioned things working for the most people. And like the top line numbers indicate a strong economy, right? But it feels like most people don't actually feel that. So, I mean, I have my own hypothesis as to what's going on there, but what do you think? How do you explain this phenomenon?
Well, media, right? Because a lot of people, and, no matter what socioeconomic background, they pay attention to the media. Mm-hmm. And so depending on where you fall, it probably does feel a little tight right now because, again, we do have, some inflation issues. The thing that I keep trying to stress is corporate profits are at a 50-year high.
There it is.
And again, so our small software company, we don't have a pension, right? I have a 401k. So I do pay attention to the stock market. And I realize that for a lot of people who can't even imagine being able to contribute to a 401k and don't have a defined pension, that's like a non-issue. And so, again, for those of us that have a 401k or are invested in the stock market, it's a catch-22, right? Because we want the market to be doing well. But part of that is that corporate profits are at an all-time high, which hurts the people that can't get a 401k because corporate profits are at an all-time high.
Yeah.
And so recognizing that, we do need to focus on, again, we are a capitalistic society, more or less, but we sure do give a lot of corporate welfare or subsidies. And people don't realize that. Or, our tax code is written to help the very biggest. I do that right now when I'll see something, pop up that there's a headline. I, look kind of far right, mid-right, far left, mid-left. And I'll tell you, my heart breaks when it's, Dem or, someone on our side that it's bad about. But we have to acknowledge that we're not perfect. And so sometimes people are going to make missteps. I hope to make very few because I do, again, with the...
Yeah, you mentioned like we're a capitalist society, and we are, but capitalism isn't exactly written into the Constitution anywhere. It's an economic system, not a system of government. And I like to think that capitalism is a very useful tool for generating wealth, but it is not the end unto itself.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. It's like a powerful wild horse, and
it needs to be well regulated.
If it is harnessed and you can use that power for good, great. If you can't harness that power, it's gonna trample you.
Right. And I feel like we're edging right into that. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Before I worked so my degree's in criminal justice. I worked in criminal justice for a while. Then I realized there was no way I was ever going to be able to pay off my student loans at the money that I was making. And, the ability to make a whole lot more, which just wasn't there. So I switched to banking. And I actually worked in banking when they undid all of most of the regulations that had been enacted after the Depression. So I feel like we've swung back there, right? We're getting to the era of almost robber barons, where it is just viewed so heavily. And again, I am all for, like I said, my sister owns a small business. My brother-in-law owns a small business, actually both my brother-in-laws, and I want them to be able to succeed. But right now, the deck just feels stacked against them to be able to grow. Whereas if you're a super large corporation, the deck is stacked a little bit in your favor.
Yeah. I feel like the big firms have really done a good job using their power to convince the small businesses that, hey, we're all business buddies here. We're on the same side.
Yeah, and they're not. They're not.
So one of these massive industries that has a lot of sway is health insurance, and just healthcare industry. And so because it is such a large chunk of family budgets, like healthcare is an economic issue, right?
Yes.
And then I feel like even with Obamacare is great, it's a nice step, but we've still just been nibbling around the edges this entire time. And I think we need like a major systemic overhaul. What do you think?
I do believe that wholeheartedly. One of the reasons that some of my supporters have what I guess if you're a Republican would probably think you're going to the dark side, is directly related to healthcare. The inability for a normal person to afford any kind of insurance, and even with the ACA, it's somewhat cost prohibitive. And again, kind of the Republicans try and chip away at the ACA and the Democrats try and, build it up. But this affects a lot of the groups that, that hopefully are my supporters, veterans with the VA and the type of healthcare that they receive, seniors with Medicare and the type of help they receive. And, then we can go down to Medicaid where, people that can't afford to be regular insurance participants participate. And I would like to see really for any type of for-profit entity to be out of healthcare. I don't know, again, with my, honesty, integrity, and I guess throw it, in my core values, compassion and empathy. I will tell you one of my biggest nightmares is that something bad will happen to my family medically and we will have to declare medical bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Just because we can't afford the treatment or the insurance won't cover the treatment or this. So I would like to work toward, almost a Medicare for all. I believe that kind of starting, again, I'm for compromise. We're not going to get this all in one big fell swoop, right? Which I honestly don't think that would work, because when you try and do something like that, just trying to get all the pieces doesn't work, right? So we go slow.
Yeah.
Maybe we bring the age back to I don't know, 55. I'm 57, so that would benefit me. But I think, that's a good, bump back. So we put those people on, make sure that we can ramp up the services we need, and we need to, as Congress people, we need to set the bar. My view kind of what a congressperson does, in addition to holding some purse strings, is that we set the going for the country. If the states want to go higher for some reason, do better by their constituents, great. But as Congress people, we're not going to let you drop below this.
Just like healthcare, and you mentioned this in passing, education is also inordinately expensive in America. You say you're paying for a college student. I graduated many years ago now at this point. President Biden's student loan forgiveness has been a godsend for millions, including myself. But it's like holding back a flood with a Band-Aid, right? What are your plans to improve public education and make higher education more affordable?
So one of the things that one of the things I would like to start with, I would kind of like to reword the whole loan forgiveness, because for a lot of students, and again, these aren't children or kids, as I've heard, these kids are.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I know. And my daughter's 20 and she's an adult, but no one that just graduated from college is getting forgiveness, right? It's people that have been paying it 10 or 20 years. So first off, what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of these kids didn't have someone to advise them when they took out the loans. Right. My daughter, we, sat down and we're like, this is what we're going to do. Da, da, da. A lot of kids didn't have that. A lot of the colleges said, oh, if you come here and take out these loans, you're going to end up with this great career that you're, it won't matter how much you have to pay back.
Right.
And some of them were subprime. So honestly, it was, for some people, the loans were a scam. The interest rates were ridiculous. One of the things I would like to do is have loans at or below prime. So if we can let big banks have a break, we can let college students. I would like people to understand that it's not really loan forgiveness. Most of the people that are getting forgiveness, if you want to call it that, we should call it loan restructuring. I like to say that for a student loan, okay, you're going to borrow this throughout your 4 years. Each year you get it. We're going to let you use that money for the 4 years you're in school without any interest. When you get out, we're going to, it's going to be less prime or less, and it's going to be simple interest, much like your home is typically. We're going to get that shady borrowing kind of thing out of it. And then we're going to set it up. You're going to have to sit down and we're going to set it up more like a home loan would be or a car loan would be.
So I want to back out of the economic concerns a little bit, I guess. Economy touches everything. But the second most important issue that keeps coming up in these polls is immigration. And I don't know if that's just because right-wing media is consistently beating that drum and making it an issue, is illegal immigration actually having a negative effect on people's lives in North Central Indiana?
So for most people that I talk to about this, and again, it's the conservatives I try and hit up here. No. Does it affect your day-to-day life? No. How it does affect your day-to-day life is here we have a lot of migrant workers. Obviously, in the 2nd District, we're huge culturally. And so we do have a lot of migrant workers. Again, it's a hot-button issue because right-wing media likes to make it out as a danger issue and a cost issue. It was funny because I was talking to one of my friends and she's like, my mother-in-law believes, because she saw it on some channel, that illegal immigrants get a $5,000 Visa card when they come into the country. And there is actually a candidate for sheriff in Arizona running commercials or something that said, I know. That says this. And again, I'm going for the honesty here. That is not the case. I mean, tell me that even the Main Street media wouldn't be on that if it was really happening. But fear is a great motivator. And the Republicans have been using it for 50 years. And they've just really doubled down, especially once, Trump was elected. His whole term was fear. It's fear. The illegal immigrants are coming in and they're hurting people. To be honest, I'm more afraid of a college-aged white man with a gun than I am any kind of illegal. The people that are, do some people create crimes? Yes, of course. But let's look at the numbers. White people create crimes, Black people, Hispanics, illegal immigrants, legal people. And the real numbers show that the cities that have the largest amount of illegal immigrants, crime is down. So let's think about this logically. So, again, I've never had an arrest warrant or been in a situation where there might be, some reason that, if I get pulled over or I do something and the police get me, I'm going directly to jail, do not pass go. But if you're here illegally, you don't want to attract attention to yourself. So you're not going to be doing things that could possibly get you arrested. You are going to be working to get money, probably under the table, or with friends or family, or people that are willing to help you. You're not out there committing crimes,
right?
And this is, statistics prove it. Here, they're coming for your jobs, and I do not know any people picking on farms. Mostly in the second district were corn and soybeans. It's feed corn or corn that goes for ethanol. The soybeans, a lot of it, we have a friend that farms, and all of everything that they grow gets shipped to China to be, processed and put into whatever. And a lot here, again, goes for ethanol production. So it's not food. But so I feel like it's a drummed up issue that makes people mad because they think people are coming in illegally and getting money that they shouldn't, or committing crimes. And I do think, so we do need immigration reform. I've been working in the computer industry. We had a person who, was from India, had gone to school here, wanted to stay in the country. So we did all the visa stuff and, to get the permits and so that he could be a citizen and work for us. And the laws haven't changed since then. And so much has changed in the past 26 years that we do need to do reform. Again, we had the bill. It was a bipartisan, it was a good, not great bill, but it was a step in the right direction. And the Republicans, even though some had written it, decided that because Trump said, we need this to be an election issue, don't vote for it, which was kind of just devastating to me. Again, it's a step. It's not the end all be all, but it was a step in the right direction.
And frankly, that immigration bill that we're talking about, I think it went way too far. That was way further right than I would have supported.
Well, yes,
but it is. It's a compromise. You have to work with people to get something done, and then Trump backed on the whole thing and wouldn't even let them do that.
Yeah.
So outside of the economy and immigration, which again always come up as the top two issues in any poll I've seen this year, what are you hearing about as you're talking to voters?
So women's rights, and, you can call it the abortion issue. It's really a women's health care issue. Believe it or not, I have been in events. As I said, I've gone to meet the candidate events, and Republican women, this is before the primary, came up to me and said, I'm not going to vote for you in the primary because obviously I'm, voting for the Republican or that. But in the general, I am going to vote for you because I am the mother of a daughter or the grandfather of a granddaughter, and I'm afraid for them.
Yeah.
I luckily I'm past really childbearing age, so I don't have to worry about that as much. But Indiana has a maternal death rate of 44 women per 100,000 births. The average in the country is 22 per 100,000. So,
it's also still too high.
It is too high. But as I like to say, our 20-year supermajority, things that are good, we're bottom 50. Things that are bad, we're top 10. And again, our abortion ban has just reinforced that. There are, and I take polls with, a grain of salt, but there were graduating college students were polled, and 65% of them said they would not go to a state with a abortion ban. and then 35% said they would. And so I have to guess that the 65% that said they wouldn't kind of are the best and brightest because they know they will have a choice somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
The people that are like, ooh, I don't know if I'll get a job, they'll be like, I'll go anywhere. So that is one thing. Again, I had a Republican who has never voted for a Democrat in his life. He is supporting me financially with one of my largest donations. That was a big issue for him. It's for him, it's a government overreach issue and a religious overreach issue. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing here in the second district. There, are a few hardcore of the pro-lifers, but I want to raise my hand and say I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life of the mother, and I am going to support what best supports her as a living, breathing being, over everything else. We do have in the second district 2 medical deserts. That means that there is not a hospital with a practicing OBGYN, which means they have to leave. And I don't know if people followed national news, but in Idaho, they have had to airlift women out of the state to get care. In Texas, they're actually on Twitter, there was a gentleman who posted or did a tweet about his wife who the fetus had died and the hospital wouldn't treat her because they were afraid of that. So basically they're saying, why don't you just go die or get so critical? I sat in on a maternal thing here in St. Joe County where the woman behind me said, I really have never talked about this, but I actually had an abortion because, again, non-viable fetus. And I was told that if, we didn't do something, I would never, ever be able to have another child because it would, just destroy my uterus and other things. And she goes, so I had an abortion and I had 3 beautiful daughters afterward. She goes, and it was life-saving. So we need to really address that. I am, as they say, leaning hard into that. I have a daughter, and it sickens me to think that a bunch of guys and women who, might never have to face this are saying, setting what we can do or not. Part of the reason she's in college out of state is because the state that she's in, she has the rights that we used to have. So for me, one of the first things that I would want to do, because these bills exist, I would want to codify Roe v. Wade so that no matter, again, what state you're in, you've got this base level of rights as a woman.
That needs to be one of the things that every Democrat running at every level of government this fall needs to talk about.
Yeah.
And we need to have a specific plan to codify Roe on like the first day of the
Yes.
Well, what else are you hearing about out there? Is the democracy issue, threats to democracy, seems to be the Biden campaign's top thing that they're pushing. Is that resonating with voters? Do they talk to you about that?
Yeah. So again, this is one that, again, with conservatives, I do hear about the women's rights. They don't like that. The conservatives aren't exactly as heavily leaning into the, democracy because, they're kind of happy with the status quo. You live in Indiana. I live in Indiana. We know that we are not a red state. We are a purple state that has been gerrymandered into elected officials pick their voters. Voters don't pick their elected officials. And
we're a rigged state.
We are a very rigged state. In my district alone, when Jackie Walorski was running, they cut out parts of the second district to ensure that she would win.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am fighting against that. As the district stands now, the numbers are 39% Republican, 22% Democrat, and what we call 39% undecided independent. So I can and I intend to win this. I think that the Republican Party as it is, which is really more the MAGA party, has chased folks away. People want decency. People want compassion. People want honesty and integrity. And that is something that we're not seeing from the MAGA side right now. And so I am hoping that again, first day, let's get Roe codified. Second day, let's get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act up there. Let's get rid of Citizens United.
Yes.
Because money does not equal free speech. It bastardizes it to such a degree. It turns your stomach, especially if you're involved in politics at all. It's he who with the most money wins, really. And we are going to turn that upside down because I can't match what my opponent has, because the RNC or the Trump NC is pouring money into these votes. I can't meet that. But what I can do is I can get voters to turn out, and I can get people that normally might not vote for a Democrat to vote for me this time. I mean, my Republican supporter, he's like, if I don't like what you're doing, I will just vote you out in 2 years. And I'm like, yes, do that, right? If you don't like what I'm doing, that's what's supposed to happen. Not whoever gets the most money, but there's, supposed to be voting for your interest. And honestly, I think, what I represent is honestly closer to what the old Republican Party was than what MAGA is.
So you mentioned the disadvantage, all the structural hurdles, I guess, in your way. So let's talk strategy a little bit. What does your voter engagement strategy look like? Are you spending a lot of time out in those rural areas, maybe trying to convince disillusioned Republicans, or are you really trying to drive turnout in the cities like South Bend and Elkhart? St. Joe County and Elkhart County both had less than 40% voter turnout in 2022. There's a lot of room for growth there.
Yeah, St. Joe County in the primary had 11.8% turnout.
That is not great.
Yeah. So actually, I'm trying to do both because neither Rudy nor Jackie have kind of any type of outreach to the regular folk. Right? They always go to where the photo op is. They're in, they shake hands. And this isn't just me, saying this. I mean, you go out and you talk to people and they're like, we never saw Jackie. Now, Jackie, I went to high school with her and she lived in my area. And I used to be like, I see Jackie everywhere. And they're like, where? And I'm like, at Kohl's, at a restaurant. They're like, yeah, not at any place that, she would be talking to constituents. And Rudy is actually worse if it's possible. Although I think because he has seen that I'm boots on the ground doing stuff, he's suddenly showing up places that he would never show up before. So we're thinking that he actually sees me as a threat, which I am. Like I said, I intend to win this. I've been to every county at least once already, some counties twice. I've been to meet the candidates where, as I said earlier, I'm the only Dem that shows up. At a couple of places, there have been one or two. But I meet with the Republicans, I shake the MAGA's hands and, tell them why they should vote for me, because I honestly believe that somehow our Hoosier values of compassion, integrity, honesty have been, somehow unserved by the MAGAs. People want people to be afraid and so on, where I'm like, you don't have to be afraid. I want you to be happy and healthy and, loving life, not like, you look at them and they look unhappy and they're so mad about things. And that doesn't need to be the case. I mean, this is America. We are not, if not the greatest country, we always aspire to be great. And for people to be like, no, we're not. Yes, we are. And we just need to get people to recognize that. And so, I'm hitting the areas in South Bend and Elkhart that no one ever goes. The west side of South Bend, Elkhart, I talked to the Green Party in Elkhart. They've invited Rudy. He won't show up. I've been to Stark County, Pulaski, Miami County breakfasts, just talking to anybody and everybody. And, shaking everyone's hand and, introducing myself and letting them know who I am, which is a whole lot closer to who they are, I think, than any of my opponents are or have ever been.
You see it every time when people are polled on the issues and you strip away all the BS and all the talking points and all the news and the misinformation that people are bombarded with. When you actually ask people about what they stand for, it always winds up correlating with the Democratic position, like almost
Almost always.
Almost universally, yeah. Um, what about the kids? How are you trying to reach out to Gen Z and get them involved in the political process?
So we just set it up. My daughter got home from college. She's a 20-year-old, lived here her whole life, now goes to school in Pennsylvania. She's a gov law major. And so she has a Snapchat that she's going to be running for me.
Okay.
There is another young lady who is currently in college. She's at Northwestern. She is from Rochester. And so her and Katie are going to be working together to reach out to Gen Z, especially the women, because right now the MAGA / Republican Party most affects them. Again, stripping their rights away. We do want to reach out to the gentlemen because one of the areas that affect them are, as you said, education, economic development, in making sure there are good jobs for younger people here. I cringe when I look at what the costs are for younger people starting out, whether it's housing, food, and what we pay. One of the things that I really don't understand is we set up a minimum wage way back, and it doesn't take the cost of living into effect, because we know if the minimum wage had kept up, it'd be in the $20 range right now.
Yeah, I believe the purchasing power for the minimum wage peaked in like the late 60s.
Yeah,
it's been going down ever since.
So what? And again, we can't go from 7 to 20, right? Tomorrow. That doesn't work. But again, we need to start, implementing, working with small business owners, working with everybody, really. The thing for small business owners, they're like, I won't be able to have a business if I have to pay people a living wage. And again, that means your business model doesn't work. And I don't want to slam people, but again, we're going back to kind of an indentured servant type of situation where they never get out of debt. They never can move forward. They don't even have those darn boots everybody wants them to pull themselves up by. And, I know I go back to that a lot, but dang it, there are a ton of people out there that have no boots. So there's no bootstrap to see. And, I tell people when I talk to them, I have never been poor. I've been broke. I mean, I have been broke, but I've never been poor because I've always had either my parents or friends or my husband's family that if something bad happened to me, I'd have a place to go to get back on my feet. And so many don't have that. Whether we're talking, LGBT kids who don't have family support, foster kids who have never had boots. And we need to, again, as a congressperson, I need to set a baseline where we're not going to let those people, I need to give them boots. They don't have to be $10 billion boots, but I need to give them a pair of boots and, and to help them work from there. Running around, barefoot looking for boots, it just wears you down. And so we need to kind of, again, set a baseline. And to me, this is what I want my tax dollars to go for, right? I want it like Biden's infrastructure plan. Yes, let's fix these roads. Let's fix these potholes. Let's make our bridges safe. Let's throw a little of that money toward mass transportation, trains, buses, subways. But let's build stuff that works for me, as a citizen of the U.S. And that's what keeps America, growing, because those jobs typically pay well to rebuild infrastructure. Again, it comes back to the economy, right? So for kids, I want trades for them to work at. We need doctors, we need nurses, we need teachers, we need software people. I can't think of, when I drive around St. Joe County, Elkhart, actually all the rural counties, there are help wanted signs everywhere. And I want to make sure that the help that they're looking for is well compensated, taken care of, treated well, and happy and healthy.
Yes. Very well said. So let's turn to a couple like hot button issues that are current right now. The leaders in both houses of Congress of both parties just invited Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to address a joint session of Congress. Do you agree with that decision? And how do you view the continuing Israeli siege on Gaza?
Oh, heartbreaking. I kind of fall into that whole thing. I can be bad. I can, want help for both sides and be mad at both sides. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with, because you said you were in northern Indiana. South Bend has a huge Jewish population, Orthodox Jews, so I've grown up. We have a kosher deli. There's a Hebrew day school, a conservative synagogue, and so I've known and know people, not as many that are Orthodox as just kind of your normal, I think what's considered conservative Jewish people, and honestly, they can't come to a consensus on what should be done. There are some that are all about that. Israel needs its own state. The 2-state solution is the only solution. I am not privy to all that as a sitting congressperson. I would be, so weighing in on whether inviting or not inviting is a good thing. We need to stop what's going on right now.
Foreign policy is diplomacy, is a very, very tricky beast. There's a lot of, like you said, back channel negotiation, and you can say certain things in public and not other things. And our military is very tied in with theirs, and they're a long-standing ally. You can't just disentangle those things. It's a mess. It's a mess. Speaking of things that are a mess, at the Supreme Court, at least 2 of the justices have been shown to be openly corrupt in the last couple of years. The Roberts Court is completely rogue. What should Congress do about that?
It's, to me, that's embarrassing. I mean, the state of our Supreme Court is embarrassing. The very reason it's set up as it is to supposedly would stop corruption has actually enabled corruption. I'm sure our founding fathers are turning over in their graves right now, or anyone that's interested in rule of law. So I would like to see the Supreme Court expanded. I do believe that I like the suggestion that for every circuit we have a judge. I want limits. Yep, I want limits. Lifetime obviously is not working, and there needs to be a ridiculously stringent ethics piece enacted. So kind of, and when we talk about rule of law, again, I'm a criminal justice major, I've done a lot of this. I firmly believe that when you are whether it's an elected official, a judge, a police officer, anyone that is given the public trust, your code of ethics has to be so how you can't see it. When as a coach, that's how, I always hold myself to a higher standard than I would if I was, a parent or that. I like to think I hold myself in a pretty high standard across the board. But as a coach, as a dive coach, you have to judge, and I would have to judge my own kids and my daughter. And they were always like, oh God, we hate it when Lori's a judge because she is way harder on us than anyone else. And again, it was to, make sure no one could say, oh, she's just giving high scores to her, her kids or whatever. So, expanding the court for sure right away. Again, right up there with codifying Roe v. Wade. And secondly, a code of ethics that is rock solid, airtight, and tough.
Yeah, and binding. Not suggestion, yes.
Not a suggestion. I honestly can't understand how I'm taking a gift, a vacation, an RV, having your wife involved in the insurrection, gone. I mean, seriously, even thinking about taking an RV thing should be gone. Because that is just so. There's no way that it doesn't sway your vote. There's no way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like you said, these folks should be held to an even higher standard.
Oh yeah.
And even if there is no impropriety, which in these guys' case there obviously is, but they should be working to even remove any appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about your opponent. Well, your primary opponent. There is a libertarian in this race too, but your main opponent is incumbent Republican Rudy Yakim. Michiana's second most famous Rudy at best.
I'm going to argue with that because nobody knows who Rudy is. When I go out places, they're like, "Who's your opponent?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Someone actually suggested that I should run a commercial called "Where's Rudy?" But as I said, so as of late, and I'm going to say as of probably the last month, Rudy has actually shown up in places that he's never shown up before. Always friendly, though. Always friendly, right? Typically, he would send staffers to friendly environments, and now he's showing up himself. He never shows up anywhere where there's going to be me or, anyone that might not be a Republican or preferably MAGA. I know people that know him. Again, we're both from St. Joe County. I don't know him, but it appears when he took over for Jackie, and I'm told, and I don't know this 100%, so please don't hold me to this, but I'm told he was brought into Jackie's circle to be a money guy, to bring in some big bucks. And then, obviously, when Jackie passed away, he was caucused in, and then won the election 2 years ago. But one of the things that the people that know him have said to me when we chat about him, because I asked them who knows him, what's he like? And they said he was, when he was caucused in, and that he was kind of what you would consider a normal Republican.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much last fall, before I was even running, I'm told there was that whole sign on to Trump's thing if you want to get funding, and he went full out MAGA, frighteningly MAGA. Hateful, anti-LGBTQ, anti-immigration, kind of, it seems, of any sort. Anti-helping people. I know right after the Trump verdict was read, he went all in on the rule of law is lost.
Yeah. We've all known, most of us have known for a long time, that Donald Trump was a criminal, a crook, and a scoundrel. And it's finally good to have the weight of law behind that. And if Rudy Yakim is still standing behind the now convicted felon Trump, that should be disqualified. Exactly. Nothing else he says can overcome it.
Everyone keeps asking me, how is it possible that a convicted felon can run for president? I'm like, well, again, our founding fathers could have never imagined the type of weapons we have now. They could never imagine we'd have computers in our pockets. They could probably never imagine that you'd have a convicted felon even in this position. And my nephew, when I talked to him, I said, we finally he's being held accountable. And he said, yeah, he goes, and I'm really happy that I get to support the candidate who doesn't support a convicted felon. There's that.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Well, yeah. Now, to be fair, I mean, Trump isn't the first convicted felon to run for president.
No, it's
my guy Eugene V. Debs ran for president as a convicted felon in 1920
from prison. Even
I would have voted for him, but completely different scenarios.
It is.
So finally, let's close here today. What closing message do you have for the citizens and voters of North Central Indiana? and not just why they should choose you over your opponent this upcoming election. This is a friendly audience here. We're going to vote for you. Those of us who are up there. I'm down in 9, but everybody up there in 2 who's listening, you've got their vote. But why do they need to do more than just vote this cycle? What can we do to help set up camp in DC? You like that?
Yeah, I do. It was really cute because I had a house party and they did all little campfire things. It was nice. They had s'mores and stuff. First off, you just said, we'll vote for you. And I really need people to go vote. I have a lot of people. Yeah, I'd vote for you. Okay, well, I need you to actually go to the polls and pull that lever or press that button.
We're friends.
That's how old I am. Pull that lever. Oh my gosh. And as usual, I need funding. My opponent is getting money from the Trump machine. You can't even call it the RNC anymore because it's not. It's Trump. So money, and what I need you to do, even you down in 9, is tell all of your friends. I've been using the example of, if you're as old as I am, back in the, I want to say late 70s, there was an Herbal Essence shampoo commercial, and the woman was on screen and she's shown shampoo in her hair. She goes, and I told 2 friends, and the screen splits and it's got her 2 friends. And then they told 2 friends and the screen splits and it's 4 friends. And they told 2 friends. And then, it keeps going. And that's what I need. I've been saying, reach out to your moderate friends, reach out to your Republicans that are tired of the ugliness, because I promise you're not going to see that from me. I am, we've been hitting hard at Rudy, but I'm not going to go low. I'm not going to tell lies. Integrity. I'm not a person with wealth. So the only thing I really own is my name. And we're not going to do anything that is going to harm my name. I'm not going to do anything that is out of my character, which is, again, honesty, integrity, compassion, empathy, doing the most good for the most people, not only in the 2nd District, but hopefully our country. I want to bring compromise back. I want to bring statesmanship back. I mean, in Indiana, we had some of the best statesmen ever. Lugar, Hamilton. I mean, these guys that were like icons by, we had people that were great statesmen. And I want, I intend to win this. So when people look back in history, I want people to say, Lori Camp restored statesmanship to the congressional people in Indiana. And that's a huge thing, but I got to set the bar high, because we too long, the people that we've been electing in the super majority they're going low. And if, like you said, if we start at the middle, we're not going to even get there. So I'm going high for all of the constituents in the 2nd District, all of the constituents in the state and the country. So I guess that would be the takeaway. If you've got a few bucks that you can throw my way, thank you. If not, because I know for some people it's hard, tell your friends, maybe host a party where you talk about me. Or if you're in the 2nd District or anywhere really and want me to come, I will show up. I will. I am about the people. I am just a regular people.
Where can the other regular people find out more about you and your campaign?
I have a website. It's www.campforcongress.com. I have an Act Blue available. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And you can reach all of that from the website. I have a YouTube. I have a Snapchat. If you do that. And we are going to my daughter, and I think the other college student that's going to be helping, we're going to have a TikTok. They want me to go viral. So that might be one of the asks you see on my Twitter at some point.
I'll definitely get some clips out for you here.
Okay, thank you.
Chop this thing up too. Yeah.
I do appreciate this. As I said, the biggest hurdle for me is just getting my name out there. I have to laugh, and I'll close it kind of with this. One of my friends that I went to high school with, she said, my mom just texted me and said, I think your friend Lori is running for like city council or something. And she texted me back, or Congress, but it's all the same. So again, thank you so much. I do appreciate this.
Thank you, Lori Camp, for joining the Who's Left podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Once again, Lori Camp, Democratic candidate for United States Congress from Indiana's 2nd District. Big thanks to her for being so generous with her time. Just a down-to-earth, regular-ass person doing her part to improve her community. Seeing an unopposed Republican, volunteering as tribute to make the incumbent do the work and use resources that could have been used in other races, this alone deserves our thanks and our support. But she isn't some sacrificial lamb there to put up token resistance. Lori does an exceptionally good job of translating a remarkably progressive platform into traditional Hoosier values. We talked about the economy, and she pointed the finger right at corporate profiteering. When we talked about healthcare, she said she wanted every for-profit entity out of the process. And sure, I might go further, but Lori proposed major reforms to the student loan system, expanding the Supreme Court, and codifying women's right to choose on day one of the new Congress. Yet, Lori doesn't sound like a radical. She speaks of work ethic, follow-through, and compromise. She deftly explains the radical rights abortion ban as government overreach. That resonates. And it turns out progressive values are Hoosier values. Never forget that the progressive left position always wins the blind taste test. Our ideas are overwhelmingly popular. And because I can't resist a pun, Camp understands that sought-after change is a great place to plant one's stake. We negotiate from there, not from the already far too right center. And though I'm engaging in wordplay, let's get serious and talk about the stakes in this upcoming election. American democracy itself is on the line, and that is not an exaggeration. We know who Rudy Yakum is. He's had his chance to reject Trump and Trumpism, to reject Christian nationalism, to stand up and say enough, but Rudy always bends the knee. The invertebrate Yakum will gladly sell out Hoosiers for a bit part in an American Reich. So, if you live in Indiana's 2nd Congressional District, it's time to get involved. South Bend, Elkhart, Goshen, Mishawaka, check your voter registration. Plymouth, Warsaw, Rochester, Peru, make sure your friends, neighbors, and anyone you know who values democracy does the same. North Judson, Bass Lake, Wabash, Grissom, commit to making sure those people vote on or before Election Day, November 5th. Remind them constantly. Early voting starts October 8th. Encourage them to vote early and use the remaining time to bring their people into the fold. In 2020, Americans turned out in record numbers to vote in the face of a viral pandemic. In 2024, Americans need to make democracy go viral. Thank you for listening. Thanks again to my guest today, Lori Camp. She can be found at campforcongress.com. Please help her in whatever way you can, be it financially. Those recurring donations go a long way. By canvassing, by writing letters, whatever you can do. If you want to hear more from our conversation, I've probably got a good 30 minutes worth of bonus content that'll go out to paid subscribers in the next few days. Get your ass on over to scottaaronrogers.substack.com and subscribe at the paid level if you want to hear that sweet, sweet bonus content. In addition to Substack, you can find me on Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok at HoosLeft, and on most other social media sites at ScottRog78. If you want to send me a message, slide up in my DMs on social media or email me at scottrog78@gmail.com. I know I just asked for money for Lori's campaign, but if you are able, help me out too. Let's keep this project growing. Until next time, this has been the Who's Left podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.